Well, good morning, pilgrims. It's me again here in Hillsboro. A little foggy out there this morning. Late getting started. I've been perusing this book here, the one I'm going to try to go into next here. Title of the book is Holiness. Its nature, hindrances, difficulties, and roots, being a series of papers on the subject by John Charles Ryle, Doctor of Divinity, Lord Bishop of Liverpool. And there's a shorter version of this book, but this is the fourth enlarged edition. That's why I've been perusing it. This was printed in 1889 by William Hunt and Company. And I'm going to read the preface to the enlarged edition. And it is enlarged. I've read the first, the shorter versions. In this version, I read through the first chapter, and if I was to read it here to you, it would take me an hour and a half. So I can't do that. Nobody can listen to my voice and way of speaking or look at my face for that long. I'm ashamed to say. I understand it. I remember Paul. Paul told me one time, he said, a lot of people can't stand my voice and the way I talk, so I know what trouble they have with mine. Anyway, here's a preface. The volume now in the reader's hands is an enlarged edition of a small work which appeared several years ago and has been kindly received by the Christian public. The present volume contains so much additional matter that it is double the size of its predecessor. In fact, the work is half new. I venture to think that the papers contained in this volume will be found helpful by all who take interest in the subject of scriptural holiness. Scriptural holiness. Not your idea, not my idea, but scriptural holiness. I'm much mistaken if they don't throw broad light on the real nature of holiness and the temptations and the difficulties which all must expect who follow it. Above all, I hope they will help to bring forward the grand truth that union with Christ is the root of holiness, and will show young believers what immense encouragement Jesus Christ holds out to all who strive to be holy. Concerning the present position of the whole subject of holiness among English Christians, among American Christians, all the world's Christians, a little screwed up our thoughts are at times. You know, a lot of words you hear in these readings of mine are from my head and not from the book, and I hope you're able to distinguish. I hope I don't mess up these folks' writings. The older I grow, the more I am convinced of the real practical holiness does not receive the attention it deserves. That there is most painfully low standard of living among many high professors of religion but at the same time, I'm increasingly convinced that the zealous efforts of some well-meaning persons to promote a higher standard of spiritual life are often not according to knowledge and are really calculated to do more harm than good. So let me explain what I mean here. It's easy to get crowds together for what are called higher life and consecration meetings. Anyone knows that who's watched human nature and read descriptions of American camp meetings and studied the curious phenomena of the religious affections. Sensational and exciting addresses by strange preachers or by women, loud singing, hot rooms, crowded tents, the constant sight of strong, semi-religious feeling in the faces of all around you for several days, late hours, long protracted meetings, public profession of experience. All this kind of thing is very interesting at the time and seems to do good, but is good real, deeply rooted, solid, lasting? That's the point. And I should like to ask a few questions about it. Do those who attend these meetings become more holy? Do they become more meek, more unselfish? Do they become more kind and good-tempered, self-denying, Christ-like at home? Do they become more content with their position in life and more free from restless craving after something different from that which God has given them? Do fathers and mothers, husbands and other relatives and friends find them more pleasant and easy to live with? Can they enjoy a quiet Sunday, quiet means of grace without noise, heat, and excitement? Above all, do they grow in charity, and especially in charity toward those who don't agree with them in every jot and tittle of their religion? Some things to think about there, huh? These are serious and searching questions and deserve serious consideration. I hope I am as anxious to promote real practical holiness in the land as anyone is. I admire and willingly acknowledge the zeal and earnestness of many of whom I cannot cooperate who are trying to promote it. But I can't. I can't withhold a growing suspicion that the great mass meetings of the present day, for the ostentatable object of promoting spiritual life, do not tend to promote private home religion, private Bible reading, private prayer, private usefulness, and private walking with God. If they are of any real value, they ought to make people better husbands and wives and fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, masters, mistresses, and servants. But I should like to have clear proof that they do. I only know it is far easier to be a Christian among singing, praying, sympathizing Christians in a public room than to be a consistent Christian in a quiet, retired, out-of-the-way, uncongenial home. The first position is one in which there is a deal of nature to help us. The second one is which cannot be well filled without grace. But alas, many talk nowadays about consecration, who seem to be ignorant of the first principles of the oracles of God about conversion. I close this preface with the sorrowful feeling that probably some who read it will not agree with me. To the young especially, I can see that the great gatherings of the so-called spiritual life movement are sure to be attractive. They naturally like zeal and stir and enthusiasm, and they say, where is the harm? Be it so, we must agree to differ. When I was as young as they are, perhaps I should have thought as they do. When they are as old as I am, they will very likely agree with me. To each and all of my readers, I say in conclusion, let us exercise charity in our judgments of one another. Towards those who think holiness is to be promoted by the modern so-called spiritual life movement, Pilgrim, it goes by many different names today. I'm sure you recognize what John Charles Ryle was talking about here. He feels nothing but charity. If they do good, I'm thankful. Towards myself and those who agree with me, I ask them to feel a little bit of charity in return. The last day will show who's right, who's wrong. In the meantime, I'm quite certain that to exhibit bitterness and coldness toward those who cannot consciously work with us is to prove ourselves very ignorant of real holiness. John Charles Ryle. I'm not sure whether that's Riley or Ryle. It's spelled R-Y-L-E. Perhaps someone more knowledgeable than I, smarter than me, will let me know. The introduction I'll read tomorrow. It's considerably longer, as every part of this book is considerably longer. Well, for now, I'll say read your Bible. Get in that book. These books I read they're great. They're wonderful. They tend to back up what I read in the Bible. But the Bible is the most important read. And prayer has got to go along with it before you read it, while you read it, and after you read it. Every day, during the day. Sort of constant prayer. That should be your life. That's pretty much my life these days. Well, God bless, Pilgrim. Have a blessed day. God bless.